All right. Good evening to all. I hope you had great 2 days at the AWS Summit. Personally, for me, it was overwhelming to see such a remarkable crowd at the summit. And I would like to thank AWS for giving the opportunity to represent ScyllaDB here. And also my colleague and my esteemed customer, Sridhar Gade, to agree and be on the platform to talk about how Freshworks are utilizing ScyllaDB. Over the past 2 days, I have, even during speaker sessions, we have heard a lot about people talking, scale and how they manage the workloads. We saw a previous session also where Aerospike was talking and Dream11 was also there, talking about scaling issues. Scale certainly is the big thing now, and behind scale, if you look at it, is central thing, which is the data. So any scalable systems, what is to be managed is data, because all decision making now is based on the data, right? And if I talk about scalabilities, typically have two facets: the front end and the back end systems. And back end typically deals with how you manage your data, how you manage your database. And that will be the central theme for today's conversations with Sri and me. So any data-intensive application requires a strong database support, which is critical, which is so important for it to perform well. And when we look at what really constitutes these high-intensive data applications or the underlying databases, what would be the requirement? Like, what are the things that I should keep in mind while picking up these? One of the central thing is it has to support high throughput, right? When I say high throughput, India is a country of scale, right? Any application, any large-scale application you see would have to deal with millions of users out there, and the transactions they're doing, during peak hours. So, for instance, you have seen IPL, or you saw it during the World Cup, where 50 million plus users, concurrency was there, and the systems were working like perfectly fine. So there must be compelling databases working behind which were handling those kind of traffics. So we're talking about millions of transactions. So the database certainly has to support those kind of high-level throughputs. It's not just the throughput. A predictable low latency is also required. It's a must-have, because any good user experience application requires you to have latencies which are of the range 5 to 10 milliseconds for a reasonable customer response. Last but not the least, merging these two, high throughput plus a predictable low latency, requires a very high-end systems, supposedly. So the cost can easily escalate once the traffic goes higher. And we're talking about traffic becoming 10x in a very short time. So any complex systems, any large deployments where you have to deploy more hardware, more infra, would mean escalated cost. So you need to have a system that can control the cost during those escalations. Gentlemen, we spoke about these requirements, and now the solution. ScyllaDB is meant to handle these challenges. Comes from the startup nation, Israel. This is the Israeli tech, built by our founders, who were the original implementers of KVM hypervisor. So the technology is rooted into the product, right from our founding days. For all our data-intensive applications that require low latency, high throughput, database is for those game-changing applications for which their success, it's the company's success, rely on performance of the user interfaces. Our close-to-metal architecture would mean we are actually extracting the every ounce of the horsepower that is supplied by the underlying hardware. For instance, in this case, AWS i4i instances or i3 instances. We are completely compatible with Cassandra, so which means we could be drop-in replacement for such systems. The good news is we are offered as a complete SaaS solution on the cloud, which means you guys can focus on your core business and leave the intricacies of the database to our experts, so that you spend maximum time on your core business. How do we achieve this? So we have a adaptive capabilities to keep the P99s extremely low. As I mentioned, close to the metal architecture. We have share nothing, shard-aware deployments, which means every core is completely capable to handle the queries on its own with async communication. And that's how we are able to achieve those scales of millions of IOPS of throughput at a very low latencies. There is no item or partition size limits, so you can virtually grow to petabytes of data with absolutely no effect on the performance. And that is one reason that we are able to operate at global scale. Later we'll see our customer lists. You will see they're all tier 1 customers, which are known to operate on a very large scale services. I'd like to stress a bit on the graph, which is our throughput workload graph, where just to stress upon that ScyllaDB is the database of choice for, if you look at the top quadrant, that's where most of our workloads or majority of our workloads are running. If you see it, these are the workloads which are, above 100K, 500K, million IOPS, and all the latencies are single digits. So that's the kind of scale or use cases that we solve with ScyllaDB. And as I say, proof of the pudding is in eating. I want to share, a sample list of our customers. Many of them you would see are Indian names, Disney Hotstar, which you heard them about managing scale on the day one, using ScyllaDB for their use cases like watch history, personalization. And following on the same lines, we have Z5, we have GeoCinema, which is ongoing, IPL, which is running, completely managed on us. Then we have Ola, and then finally we also have Freshworks, which is the big giant in the IT service management, and of course we'll hear from Sri how they are using ScyllaDB for. On the gaming side, we have MPL as the customer. Discord on the messaging side, we have ShareChat. So a whole variety of use cases. But one common theme across all is that they're all high throughput, low latency use cases. A bit about our relationship with the AWS. So we are ISV Accelerate partner. We are a strong proponent of marketplace. We have 2 offerings, enterprise and a fully managed SaaS service. In fact, so much so, we support marketplace that we have, our revenues on marketplace grew almost 200% in the last year and expected to grow like 3x this year. We are heavily deployed on the storage bound or storage optimized EC2 instances, i3, i3EN, i4i. And of course, we are Graviton ready partners. So if your use cases, if you're looking for ARM processors, we are Graviton ready. Now, without further ado, I'd like to request and introduce Sri, VP Engineering Freshworks, to talk about how they're using ScyllaDB for their compelling workloads. Over to you, Sri.
Awesome. Thanks, Ajay. Hi, everyone. Good evening. I'm sure, I hope this session is not holding you from actually getting into the exciting Bangalore traffic. But so I think over the next 15 minutes, I'm going to basically share in our experience with ScyllaDB and all the workloads that we have, custom workloads, like how it's been helping us. But before I do that, I would like to walk you through what Freshworks is all about, so that you can actually kind of connect the dots in terms of what kind of workloads are we talking about, what kind of business we are supporting. So my name is Sridhar Gade. I head cloud engineering and responsible AI for Freshworks. And Freshworks is basically one of the fastest growing SaaS product company on the planet, and with the customers over 120 different countries. And then we are hosted all over the world, and we have close to 65,000 customers in various different industry verticals. So a little bit about the company itself. The company is founded in 2010 as a single product company. It was called Freshdesk at this point of time, and started with a customer experience suite of products. And then over time, we grew and then started adding different product lines. And the next one was ITSM product line. We call it Fresh Service. And then we also added the Fresh Sales and Fresh Marketer. These are the CRM suite of products. And then Freshworks kind of Freshdesk kind of emerged into Freshworks to kind of cover all this suite of products that we're talking about. And we went public in 2021, and we are like proudly kind of trading in a NASDAQ. So another accolade for Freshworks is that Freshworks is the first company which is actually born out of India, first SaaS product company to actually go public in the US. So that is something we are proud of as well. So like I said, we are a SaaS product company and we are actually multinational. We also have customers all over the world. And then this is like 2023 and 24 is all about generative AI. And all of you are aware that data is actually driving the quality of the generative AI solutions that we are putting it out, right? And garbage in, garbage out. So the quality of data is going to matter a big time. And then so the ability for us to be able to manage the data, and then the quality of it, and the scalability, and then the performance and everything else is going to matter big time. And that's why my next slide, basically I'm going to talk about some of the major challenges that we had with actually scaling, especially when we are talking about when we have customers from every part of the planet. The first one is basically when you're talking about P90, P95. So most of the companies can actually give you a great performance until like P90s. But then when you talk about the long tail, that's when I think customers will start struggling. And Freshworks always had a policy and has a policy to ensure that like 100% of your customers have similar experience to make sure that we basically like the support their business. Because if you look at all of our CX product, like the suite of products, like the Freshdesk, Freshcaller, Freshchat, Freshbots, everything actually supports business of our customers. We have close to 35,000 businesses using like our customer experience suite of products. So we just want to make sure that the latencies or the performance that the data layer provides is actually pretty cool. So we also talking about the administrative burden. So we don't want to actually have, as the company grows, company scales, right? When you're talking about the revenues and the customer spread is like 10x. We don't want to increase our like maintenance or the team that is actually managing it is actually 10x. So that's exactly not what we want to do. This is across all the data layers. We are talking about, we have MySQL at the core of it. AWS is proudly supporting it. And then all other data layers we are talking about, including analytics. So we are in the market out looking for different solutions. So I think ScyllaDB is one of the great examples of being able to reinvent the wheel and still look wheel better, right? These are the new age tech companies where the old tech of Cassandra workloads, we have been actually using it for a long time, but then how do we do it actually so elegantly and better, more efficiently, is that it's so unbelievable. So our engagement started a few months ago, probably sometime late last year. We started actually like doing POC and started working out various different combinations, and it was very I think quickly we figured out that I think in terms of all the problems that I've stated here were actually being solved by the solution that we are talking about. So that's exactly why the slide, why ScyllaDB, because it's kind of a very easy on our Dataverse team. So we have a team called Dataverse, which basically manages all of our MySQL workloads, Memcache, DB. We have Redis in-house hosted, and then a whole bunch of like scaled out data layers. The entire this team actually manages this, and for them, this is actually very easy on their maintenance and making sure that the learning curve is much lower, and then it's easy for us to actually be able to scale. So at our cloud engineering, the mindset is like this: is that think 100x and execute, build everything for 10x minimum, and ScyllaDB kind of falls in right there, like in that particular slot. So last but not least, it's also easy on the eyes of a CFO, because I think when you're actually talking about scale, we also want to make sure that you are very cost effective, right? So our traditional Cassandra workloads also have the EC2 or the compute costs along with the maintenance costs. So all that I think dramatically going low and giving you the performance that you always deserve. So when the POC went successful, then we actually kept a migration plan in place where we have terabytes of data across multiple regions in the US, Europe, India, and Australia, and then we are actually growing into multiple different regions. And then as part of this migration plan, we looked at zero downtime dual write concept, and so we took it in multiple different phases so that we don't impact the customer experience as we actually go, and over time we kind of matured that product as we also deployed in multiple different areas, right? And at the end we basically used CDM migrator to validate our overall customer experience. Just want to make sure that customer sees anything equal or better than before, and that's exactly what we saw. So based on this plan, we kind of executed. So out of 4 regions that we have across the world, one of the regions, it's like the ScyllaDB is already live. It's actually serving our customers, right? And then if you look at some of the timelines we are talking about, like 2+ terabytes, like migrated in 4 days. This is production environment where it's completely transparent to the end user, right? So I think what I'm trying to state here is, one is evaluating a very traditional data workload and trying to actually migrate it to a new age platform, but also doing it in so seamless to your customers, and then suddenly they start seeing that the tremendous improvement in everything that's happening. So you see the latency reduction as well, right? So going from almost 1 second to 100 milliseconds. So this has happened in one of our regions, and I'm also expecting same to happen as we scale to other regions as well. But I think one thing to note is that I think the unbelievable performance improvements will also eventually result in the cost improvements as well, because you don't have to provision as much hardware or like an EC2 in the regions like you do in traditional cases, or if you're using any other solutions, which I will not name it here, but any other commercial customer workloads that we are talking about. So what's next for us, right? So I think it's very easy for us for a kind of move the traditional customer workloads to ScyllaDB, but then we're also looking at multiple different MySQL use cases into actually scaling out to ScyllaDB. For example, one of the good examples is, so we are big on ticketing, right? If you look at our customer experience or ITSM products, it's all about based on tickets, and then tickets will have a lot of attributes and a lot of data. We are talking about terabytes and petabytes of data. So when you talk about ticket body, could have a lot of text and also attachments and everything else. Today it's stored in MySQL. So now we are experimenting to see out of all the storage that's in MySQL database, probably a significant amount of it, more than 50% of it actually sits in ticket body, which comes from RDBMS. Not very efficient. But then we didn't know any better. Now with ScyllaDB coming into picture, we're trying to see if we can offload some of these workloads into ScyllaDB. So 2 things will happen. One is DB will run much faster. So the queries and then the updates and reads will become much faster, because the whole different workload is actually not in the DB. And at the same time, the queries, when somebody is actually reviewing the ticket bodies, then it will be much faster for them because it's actually coming from ScyllaDB. So we are looking at multiple different things like storing the text data, like the scalability, performance, data modeling, and many other use cases that we are looking at, which are non-conventional NoSQL data. And this is in our effort to actually scale out our DB layer in a way that it's a lot more manageable and a lot more performant. And then when we are actually talking about, especially due to data residency requirements, we have to actually scale out into multiple different regions as well. So in the past, if you just serve from the US, half of the world is covered, and then you serve from the Europe, and then most of the East is kind of covered. Now we are talking about data residency in Middle East, data residency in Australia. Canada is seeking data residency against United States and vice versa. So you'll actually see the concept of micropods, mini pods coming out, where instead of hosting in 4 places, you might be actually hosting maybe 40 or 100 different places, but with much smaller footprint. So technologies like this will actually help us scale out very fast, because the footprint can be much lower, and then you'll be able to actually replicate it much faster going forward. So with this, I just want to thank ScyllaDB for this partnership, and this has been wonderful. And we know that I think we only are done with the 1 region out of 4 we have, and we are going to actually do a lot more. And I think this is an excellent testament for that. There is a lot more to be invented, especially with the generative AI coming in the data layer, especially in the analytics and data space. And then our eyes and ears are actually open for adopting more such things. So with that, thanks, and handing over to SJ.
Hey, thanks a lot, Sri. I think such strong words coming out from you is a strong testament that, the kind of product quality that we have. I think a couple of points that Sri mentioned is worth highlighting again. If you look at, he's talking about POC starting early the year, and then in 3 months, they were actually live. So you can imagine how fast-paced things can go with ScyllaDB. In 3 months, we're actually going live, and the live traffic from other regions actually have been moved onto ScyllaDB with zero disruption to the ongoing traffic. And we're talking about Freshworks, which thousands, of customers worldwide. It's a NASDAQ-listed company. So that's the scale that we are operating. The other thing that Sri also mentioned is, the millisecond responses and no requirement for a cache in the front. That's a very important point, because what ScyllaDB does is it tries to fall somewhere in between. You have a latency, which is coming from, in-memory database, those kind of response times you get, but the data is on memory. That's on physical disk. So it's a persistent stored data with latencies matching in DB cache. Plus, the level of support that we provided, ensured that Sri and his team can focus on things that really matter and leave the rest of things to us. So, strong support, excellent database, classic performance is what ScyllaDB is known for. I encourage you guys to go to our website, check out other case studies. It's filled with our customer case studies. I think we are one of the very few companies where customers are speaking for us, because that's the kind of product that we have. You'll see tons of case studies on our website. I encourage you to go check it out. We have a community version. Download it, start using it, join our community, and soon we'll be talking, as our enterprise customers to you guys. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot for joining us.